Hi, my name is Freedom Rose. I'm still new to this game, so I thought I would show you an old school recipe my grandma passed down, and yeah, we'll go from there. All right. First off, pull our hair up, wash our hands. Oh yeah, and set our oven to the proper temp. 325 is where we want it. So, most of my fans know I'm a cook on the side at a restaurant. I'm not allowed to say names, of course, corporate, no. But, I do a lot of baking on the side, especially during the holiday season. So, I thought I would show you one of my favorite things to do for my friends, family, and coworkers. We're going to start off, we want 3 larger bananas or 4 smaller bananas. Your option there. Of course, it doesn't matter if it's a little green or a little rotten. Most people know this. It helps if you break it up in chunks as far as the mashing of the bananas goes. It doesn't always make it faster, but it helps. One thing to keep in mind when I'm doing my recipes, I have a tendency to improvise a lot. My grandma's recipe is no longer my grandma's recipe, technically. I've kind of spruced it up and turned it into my own. Before I get too far, I'll show you the recipe. Alright, so here's our recipe that I'm currently looking at. This guy here. I've had this recipe for years. Sorry. Okay, so when it comes to these, I usually follow along the basics of what I need. I do the butter that they call for. I do the main flour that they call for. Eggs, you know, the usual. But then I add the extra ingredients to boot because I've learned some things over the years that really help on the moisture factor when you're dealing with breads. And yeah. Alright, so calls for 1/2 cup since I am doing a double recipe. That's 2 sticks of butter. Once again, please keep in mind, this is an old recipe, so it's going to be a little high on the butter factor, but it's well worth it, trust me. I'm just going to put that in the mic for a few seconds, let it melt down and do its thing. And if you choose, you can always do it by stovetop. Your option. I don't think it really matters how you melt your butter. Alright, so apples, they actually suggest that you wash them with warm water to help get that extra oily film off the top that they usually have from, you know, shipping and cargo and stuff like that. Also, good to wash your fruit in general. Don't bother with the bananas because your bananas are on the inside of the peel. Washing the outside is not going to do any good for your inside banana. With the apples, it's really good to cut them down into slices. So you're looking at something along these lines. Of course, make sure all your seeds and stems are gone. You don't want any seeds or stems in this. Okay, gotcha. Alright. Of course, when you cut it in fours, it does make it really easy to just cut out the center by hand. Make sure you're getting in this area in general because it'll have that extra little skin on the inside for the seed. And that it doesn't exactly cook well, even in baked goods. So you want to make sure it looks more like this. Okay. Also keep in mind, good cooking takes time. I mean, you can come up with some decent stuff that doesn't take hardly any time, but you can always tell the difference between something that took time in comparison to something that only took like 5 minutes. So in the case of the apples, you might be able to get away with blending them and stuff, but I've learned that the best way to get flavor out of them is actually to shred them up. Of course, watch your fingers. It's more slick than cheese. And the interesting part about this is you can start it off shaving the bottom part of the apple and then flipping it around so that you're just rubbing it across like this. Okay? That way, as long as you don't shave down through the skin, you shouldn't have too many issues catching your fingers. Seems like a hassle, but well worth it. I get compliments on this every Christmas. plate's getting full, so I'm just going to scoot it over here to move it off. Going back to what I was doing. Also, keep in mind, cooking is messy. You're going to have to clean up when you're done, no matter what. Whether it takes 5 minutes or 2 hours. Okay, we're down to our last apple slice. Goodness. This is not easy. Alright. Of course, it usually sticks on the inside, just like cheese. So make sure you pull all the excess out. Lee, can you grab me a hand towel, please? Love my coffee. Ooh, sorry. Alright. Let's see, this mix cleaned up just a little bit. So, after we add the fruits together, I'm going to go ahead and mash our bananas. And I know we've already shredded the apple, but trust me, it's not going to phase that any. It's just going to mash your bananas and your apples together. That's all. Or you can do it the other way too, mash your bananas first, then add your shredded apple. It really doesn't matter on that part, as long as you get your bananas mashed down to a good thin mixing layer. So you're going to have something like this. Doesn't look the greatest, but trust me, it'll be. Alright, now that we've got that taken care of, I'm going to go ahead and start with sugar. And remember, we're doing a double batch right now, and the reason why I'm doing a double batch is because it makes it much easier. The original recipe calls for 3 bananas, and that's it. So I did the 3 bananas because you can't do a banana and a half and make it work very easily or whatever, you know, a lot of dividing, subtracting. It's just much easier. I don't know about you guys, but I love these Christmas tins. They come in handy for so much. So this is my sugar, and the recipe calls for 1 cup of sugar. Because we're doubling, we're going to do 2 cups of sugar. Okay. Calls for 2 cups of flour. So we're going to do 4 cups of flour. course, you remember our butter in the microwave. Now see, it's not quite ready. We're getting there. So I'm going to set it up for a little bit longer. That should take care of the melting process there. From there we need baking soda, 1 teaspoon worth. So, oh, I forgot my tools. Okay. So we've got our little teaspoons and tablespoons. It says 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So I actually want to do 2 because we're doubling our recipe. Try and make sure you don't have too many lumps in your baking soda. If you do, you need to try and figure out a way to get that broken down more so it's more powder than lumps. These lumps are very difficult to mix in. Okay, so we're going to check our butter. Perfect. We'll add our butter to it. Okay. It says we need a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So since we're doubling our recipe, I'm just going to use 1 teaspoon and call it good. Because 1/2 and 1/2 equals 1, right? Alright, so I have started to add other things to this, but before I do, looks like I have one more thing I gotta add. Eggs. So the recipe calls for 2 eggs. We're going to add 4 because we're doubling. Dropped it. Okay, of course, try and break up your yolks a little bit before you start mixing this. It makes the process a little easier. Oh, break down you. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and start to mix it. But I don't want to mix it completely in because I still have my extra ingredients, remember? I'm going to put the eggs away. I'll be right back. One of the things I really love to add is ground cinnamon. Ground cinnamon goes great in just about any of your baked goods. Just about. And I don't usually go light. Want to do about 1/2 tablespoon, not a teaspoon, a tablespoon of ground cinnamon. And I don't just do it level with the scoop. I go ahead and heap it. And then to boot, I also add milk. The reason for this is it helps with the moisture factor, the fluffiness factor, and the raising of the bread factor. So I'm adding about 1/2 cup of milk. And then, I'll rinse this out really quick. Something I've learned about living in the mountains mountains because remember, I'm from Montana. Most of your baked goods don't take into account the elevation factor. So, being that we live in the mountains, always go at least half a cup more than the recipe calls for. The reason for this is because, once again, like I said, the elevation factor. So, I'm going to go ahead and add that extra half a cup now. Trust me, if you keep this in mind, if you live in the mountains, it will make your cookies, baked goods, whatever, fluffier and a lot happier looking than they usually do when they come out. Oh, that's what I forgot to do. I forgot to double up on my cinnamon. I did half a tablespoon. I need to do another half a tablespoon because I'm doubling up on my recipe. And this bread really kind of absorbs the cinnamon look. So, that's about what it should look like, consistency-wise and so on and so forth. Smell-wise, you should be able to smell the flour, the banana, and the cinnamon. And this is my all-time fave to do. Semi-sweet mini morsels. Adds just that extra little flavor that everyone loves. And you don't need to add much. See where my fingers are? That's all you need to add. It'll spruce up your recipe just enough. Everyone will love it. Go with the semi-sweet mini morsels because then it spreads out more and it's not overpowering like the milk chocolate chips are. You know what I mean? Alright. As you can see, I've gotten quite the mess. I'm just going to set a few things aside. And then we're going to work our bread pans. Now, of course, by the time you're done with this, if you turn on the oven when you first started to reheat or preheat, it should be done by now and ready to go. Of course, make sure you spray your pans down. I personally don't use baking spray. I don't know why. I've never been able to make the stuff work. The difference between baking spray and cooking spray is baking spray has a flour in it. Cooking spray does not. It's just the oil. And because I doubled up my recipe, I'm also not sure how many pans I'm going to use here. So I'm going to get my big bread pan ready with the 4 loaves and my 2 little guys. Of course, we're going to start with the big guy because it just makes it easier to get 4 done in one. As usual, most recipes call that you fill it up about 3/4 of the way full. This is the same. Make sure it's spread out as evenly as you can get it. It doesn't have to be perfect though. Please don't make it perfect. nothing is perfect. And if you get it a little over, no big deal. Just grab a scoop up, move it to the next one. Oh, that got full. Okay, I may have been right on the needing the extra little pans thing. So we will go ahead and take care of that. Good thing we sprayed them down, huh? Finally, down to that last little bit. Upstate. Yeah, my kitchen isn't very big, which is why I attempted to do what I could. In any case, 325 degrees. You're gonna want to cook it for at least half an hour. And of course, you're going to do the toothpick thing, the toothpick thing. Test out your bread, make sure that it's not super moist. If you're coming out with stuff on your toothpick, it's not done yet. Put it back in the oven for at least another 5 to 10 minutes, okay? So, here we go. And because of the way I did things, I can fit it all in my oven at once. It's just going to cook slightly different, so it might take longer than 30 minutes. You need to keep that in mind, because the heat has to get around the pan completely for it to cook right. Set our timer for 30 minutes, and then we'll come back to it, and I'll show you when we're done. Alright, we are back. So, it took approximately 40 minutes to cook it this way, but I'm pretty positive we're done. Oops. So always make sure your tallest ones are the main ones you want to check, but it'd really be good if you just checked them all to make sure. See, clean toothpick. So that last guy came out like this. We might want to give it like 3 more minutes, but it's not going to hurt the other ones that are already done. However, I am still going to check my other 2 pans because they're loose by themselves. So okay, so once again, got kind of a messy toothpick. You're going to want to go ahead and stick them in. Put them in for another 5 minutes. Just to make sure everything gets done. Now with your normal banana breads and stuff, yeah, that might be a problem because it would make it more dry. In the case of this particular recipe, because we added the milk, remember, that's really going to help on the moisture factor. It's still going to be kind of crispy on the outside, but delicious on the inside. Okay? once again, remember you're poking the center of the bread because that is the tallest point of the whole bread. The deepest area. Make sure you get it down as far as you can in the bread itself. Okay? Reason further down you get it, the more you know how well it's cooked. Bam. All clean. So, it took us a total of 45 minutes the way we cooked it. Now keep in mind, you do something like cupcakes, you can probably get away with 25-30 minutes. But it also depends on what pans you use and so on and so forth. So, thank you very much for joining me on today's little journey, and we'll see you later.